Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Monday, March 20th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting a work session on the Dubuque Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for March 20th, 2023. As a reminder to viewers and listeners, due to the nature of tonight's meeting topic, public input is not accepted. However, you may contact the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/council contacts. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh?
Here.
Council members Farber?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Resnick? Here. Roussel?
Here.
Sprank? Here. Wethel? Here. And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Our work session topic is the Dubuque Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan Update. I will turn it over to Planning Services Manager Wally Wernemont.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Wally Wernemont, Planning Services Manager. It's my pleasure to introduce Laura Karstens, former city planner for the city of Dubuque. It's great to see her smiling face every day. And then Dan Fox is another planner with ECIA. We've been working with them on the Dubuque Regional Bike Pedestrian Plan. With our city organization, we're one of the organizations, they'll go through all the organizations that they've been involved with developing this plan. But with our group, we actually have a bike group that meets monthly. I have Jason Duba is our transportation planner in our office that works directly with the bike group. He's in attendance. And then also John Deans from our engineering department, Gus Ahoyas, and then Marie Ware with the leisure services department. We meet, like I mentioned, monthly to look at our bike hike trail process, look at funding, look at a plan, and as we look forward to this regional plan and how we're going to move forward with some of the recommendations in it. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Laura Karstens to come up and give the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Wally. I told Dan it feels like old home week. See all these familiar faces. Well, thank you for time on your agenda to go over this regional plan with you. You will see it again as members of the Dubuque Metropolitan Area Transportation Study Board, but we're going to focus a little more closely on City of Dubuque aspects. Dan and I both work for ECIA, and for folks at home, that is the East Central Intergovernmental Association. So we're a regional council of governments. We serve 5 counties in Northeast Iowa, and we have 6 main areas where we provide services: community development and economic development, as well as housing assistance, special programs, transit, and transportation and planning. Our presentation tonight will review the draft regional plan. We'll give you a summary of the public input that we have received. We'll talk about the project schedule and provide time for questions and discussion. The purpose of this project was to create a plan that would allow us to expand and improve the bicycle and pedestrian network as part of the regional transportation system for the Dubuque Metropolitan Area Transportation Study Area and then the remainder of Dubuque County. This map shows the planning area located on the tri-state boundaries of Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So it includes all of the DMATS area that's outlined in red, and then part of Dubuque County, and also unincorporated areas in Grant County, Keeler and Sandy Hook, and then the city of East Dubuque in Joe Davies County, Illinois. The county area that's included is outlined in blue. The estimated 2020 population for that Dubuque region for this project's definition was nearly 102,000, according to the U.S. Census. The population is split between the city of Dubuque, about 59%. There's 21 small cities, about 21%, and then the unincorporated rural areas are the remaining 20%. In just the DMATS area, over 80% of workers drive themselves to work, and 6% carpool, about 2% walk to work, only less than 1% bike or ride the bus, and about 8% work from home now. Our planning process overview was to review related plans and policies, review existing conditions of the network, look at developing a future network concept, provide for input from the community and stakeholders on that concept, revise it based on the input, and then finalize the future network plan. To create this plan accurately so it reflects the future needs of the network and the folks in the area, we have a project steering committee that helps us. They're helping us gather input from their community partners, and other people and stakeholders in the region. The members of that represent Dubuque County, the City of Dubuque, City of East Dubuque, the Regional Planning Affiliation, RPA, DMATS, and Travel Dubuque, who is representing tourism and other advocacy groups for trails. Over time, the three states, the regional planning agencies, counties, and cities that touch this area have created their own plans and project lists for their portions of the region. The plan that we looked at as the basis for beginning this new plan is called the Tri-State Area Integrated Walking, Bicycling, and Hiking Network Plan. This is a regional plan that was completed in 2008 by ECIA and then was adopted in 2010 by DMATS. We then looked at state and regional plans and city and county plans. We also looked at federal policies related to bicycle and pedestrian facilities. The three most important ones we'd like to highlight are: there is an accommodation regulation and recommendation issued in 2010, the federal level, for bicycle and pedestrian facilities that recommends incorporating them as equal modes of transportation and providing choices for people of all ages and abilities, especially children. The context-sensitive design considers where is this facility going to be, its physical setting, what type of economic, social, scenic, aesthetic, historic, and environmental resources are in the area. How are we going to maintain safety and mobility? So it looks at the context to make sure the facility is planned, implemented, maintained, and operated in a way that's sustainable with that context. Complete streets is kind of a misunderstood approach. Complete streets serve pedestrians, they serve bicyclists, public transit users, children, older adults, persons with disabilities, motorists, freight vehicles, pretty much everybody. The National Complete Streets Coalition notes, however, complete streets is a process and an approach, and it's not just a product or a single type of street. Each street is unique. It responds to its community context. That context and the needs of the users are different in rural areas, suburban towns, urban communities. So streets will look different as a result, even when everyone's using a complete streets approach. We also reviewed existing conditions. In many parts of our region, the choice of travel is limited to driving due to land use patterns. Even when destinations are nearby, a lack of pedestrian and bicycle facilities often make walking and biking unsafe and undesirable. Existing bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the region fall into three main categories. The first is the off-road trails. These are bicycle and pedestrian facilities that are physically separated from vehicle traffic by an open space or a barrier. The Upper Bee Branch Creek Greenway is a great example of that. There are also multi-use trails that serve for more recreational purposes, such as the mountain bike trail south of Dubuque. The other two categories of our existing facilities are on-street routes, which could include bike lanes or paved shoulders or just sharing the road, and pedestrian facilities like sidewalks, crosswalks, and curb ramps. This map shows the location of our existing bike and pedestrian facilities in the region. The bike lanes or paved shoulders are blue lines. The The bike and pedestrian bridges or overpasses are red. Complete streets are streets where improvements have been made to support safe mobility for all users. They're a light green. The hiking trail, like the one in the mines of Spain, is a brown line. The mountain bike trail, south of Dubuque, is a unpaved trail for mountain bikers and pedestrians, and it's in tan lines. The multi-use trail is the paved, or in the case of the Heritage Trail, unpaved trail designed for multiple types of users. That's a dark green. The pedestrian walkway is a paved path designed primarily for pedestrian use and for bicycle use in some instances, and this is shown in purple. The signed on-road route are bicycle routes. They're designated with signs posted along the route, shown in orange. This map shows the location of those types of facilities within the city of Dubuque. So we've zoomed in a little bit here. Urban areas, small cities, and rural counties in our region face common challenges in providing a safe, comfortable, equitable, connected bicycle and pedestrian network for people of all ages and abilities. Roadways often are designed only to be shared by cars, trucks, and vans, and they do not easily accommodate transit bus stops, bicyclists, and pedestrians. The focus on vehicle traffic in the region results in a lack of transportation options that are safe and comfortable for bicyclists and pedestrians to use. Few communities in our region have a complete multimodal network that allows people to bike and walk throughout the community, to reach other communities, or to get to local or regional destinations. For example, Dubuque has an extensive riverfront trail system, and the Northwest Arterial Trail, as shown on this city map. However, there aren't any designated connections to destinations in the center of the community. The other thing that we want to remember is that multi-use trails may be the most desired option for transportation and recreation for biking and hiking, but their cost of construction and ongoing maintenance and lack of available land will limit our ability to build a network out of multi-use trails alone. So we're looking at the design and cost of providing bicycle and pedestrian facilities in a region that has some constraints. We have a rugged terrain. In case you didn't notice, it's not very flat out there. The width of the pavement, the right-of-way that's available, and adjacent land use all are constraints. Sidewalks are important for walking connections to homes, schools, businesses, transit services, and other activities. However, some areas don't have any sidewalks or paved shoulders to connect students to their schools and are too close to their schools to qualify for bus transportation. Unlike on-road trails, unlike off-road trails or on-street bike routes, however, private property owners usually have to maintain sidewalks. So this can create challenges. Property owners can vary in their ability or even their desire to maintain sidewalks. So the challenge is to reduce pedestrian and bicycle crashes through accommodations and that complete streets approach. The location of pedestrian and bicycle crashes can provide information on where safety improvements are needed, and we're looking at that as part of the plan. We also have garnered community input for this plan. We began with stakeholders, encouraged them to provide us input through a variety of methods, and we reached out to state agencies, regional planning agencies, county governments, local governments, regional organizations, advocacy groups. Created this project handout as part of that process. We also had local and regional outreach. Many of the local governments have their own plans and had held public hearings or public meetings at commission, board, or council meetings over the last several years. And we also coordinated opportunities for input at 2 public meetings, one in Dubuque and one in Dyersville. We had a project website, we had a community survey, and we had an online interactive map, as well as meetings with regional groups and public input meetings. I'm now going to turn it over to Dan Fox, and he'll talk about the results of that public input and where we're going with the plan from here. Dan?
Thank you, Laura. So one of the largest portions of our community input for this plan was the community survey. And that survey was distributed to the stakeholder groups that Laura just mentioned. It was also posted on our project website and also shared with bike and pedestrian advocacy groups within the region. We also put up displays at the Multicultural Family Center in Dubuque and also public libraries in Asbury, Cascade, Dyersville, East Dubuque, Epworth, Farley, Holy Cross, and Piasta. So the survey results, sort of in a nutshell, were that we received a lot of positive comments about many of the region's individual bike and pedestrian facilities. So the example we have there is the B Branch tunnels. Got a lot of positive feedback about different assets like that, and especially the tunnels were a major one. But when we ask more about the system overall, the feedback was a little bit more negative and indicated that there was some more work to be done on the system as a whole. So you can see when we ask the question, does the region has adequate infrastructure for walking and biking? 41% disagreed and 38% strongly disagreed with that statement. So to break that down a little bit, you can see here we asked questions about individual aspects of the bike and pedestrian network, and we got pretty different results depending on what we were asking about. So, walking and biking trails and sidewalks got relatively good marks on this survey. But when we look at bike and pedestrian safety, connections to schools, work, shopping, and services, and then also on-road bicycle routes, there was a lot more people that rated those facilities as poor within the region. Ultimately, I think this gets back to that lack of connectivity that we saw on the map earlier through the middle of the community. Connecting to different destinations can be a struggle currently on the existing bike and pedestrian network. So who did we hear from through our survey? We had a total of 309 survey responses. 78% of those came from, had Dubuque or Asbury zip codes. 6% were from Dyersville and 4% were from Piasta. We had the breakdown, we had 95% white and 1% Hispanic or Latino. And 8% of households had someone with a disability living in those households. There's also a chart there showing the age distribution of the respondents, and the age range of 35 to 44 was the highest proportion of responses. So how did the people that responded to the survey get around? We asked the question, which of the following modes of transportation have you used in the past month? And actually 95% or 91% of people responded that they have used a personal vehicle or drove alone within the last month. And then followed by walking with 78% and bicycling with 59%. So even though the survey, the pool of respondents to this survey were some of the most likely to walk and bike within our area, there's still a lot of people driving also as their primary mode of transportation. So based on the input that we collected through the survey and our other means of public input, we started to work on developing a future network concept. So the steps in that process of developing that concept were to first start with determining the needs of the tri-state community that we're working in, establishing priorities for the future network, followed by setting goals, objectives, and performance measures, and then identifying future bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So we identified a total of 8 kind of tri-state area community needs statements. And so we have 8 of them, and through the survey, we were able to kind of prioritize them in order. So these are in order here. I guess I won't go, in the interest of time, I won't go into the details of each one of these, but I will say that the primary needs that we heard through the public input were focused on safety, number 1, and then also connectivity. So making sure that people can connect to the destinations that they want to get to through the bike and pedestrian network, and also do that safely were kind of the 2 main needs. So we'll jump ahead here to the priorities for the future network. So again, there was 8 kind of key priorities that we wanted to focus on when developing plans for the future network. So first, we started with developing a connected bike and pedestrian network that's close to all residents. Improve bike and pedestrian safety and comfort. Increase complete streets and safe routes to school. Link the bike and pedestrian network with public transit automobile facilities to foster multimodal travel. Number 5 is to connect residents and tourists with services and destinations. 6 is use consistent street wayfinding, trail and map signs. Number 7 was to educate all users in the safety and rules of the road. And number 8 was to improve multimodal access and mobility. So those were kind of our 8 broad areas that we want to focus on. And then from there, we worked on narrowing that down to more specific action items. So each one of those priorities, the 8 priorities, they became goals for the plan. So those are the broad statements that describe the way things should be. Then we moved on to objectives, which are the specific and measurable steps that can be taken to reach the goals. And then finally, we identified performance measures. So these are the ways that we track our progress towards achieving our goals and completing objectives. So those are all quantifiable, and each performance measure has a baseline measurement and a target or desired trend. And then we include data sources, related plans, and other resources. So we won't get into all of those here tonight in the presentation, but I wanted to give you an example of what those goals, objectives, and performance measures look like. So this is an example here of goal 2, to improve bike and pedestrian safety and comfort is the goal. The 2 objectives here are reducing non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries, and then also reducing bicycle and pedestrian crashes. The performance measures here are just basically the crash counts that we get from reports from the state DOTs. And we have baseline measurements there, and then also desired targets or trends. So obviously we want those to go down over time, and hopefully we'll be able to do that by implementing our safety objectives. So from there, after we have all our goals, objectives, and performance measures in place, the final step in our planning process was to identify future bike and pedestrian facilities. So the map here on the slide is similar to the map that Laura showed earlier of the existing bike and pedestrian facilities. But on this map, we've tried to fill that in with some future facilities. So these are, again, organized by color code, and you can see, like the blue are bike lanes, the orange are on-street routes, and the green are trails, are multi-use trails. So you probably won't be able to see that easily, but at the end of the presentation, I do have an interactive map that'll be a little easier for you to identify specifics on the maps. So as part of the plan, we wanted to make sure that we gave some good examples of what we're talking about when we're looking at these future planned facilities. So we used existing guides that were available from the Iowa DOT, the Federal Highway Administration, and just tried to give some examples of what these potential projects could look like. As Laura mentioned with her slide on complete streets, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So, a lot of these things could be deployed in different locations based on the surrounding context. So here are just some examples. First is the off-road facilities, so separated bike lanes and sidewalks. or shared use paths or multi-use trails. So just some examples of what those would look like. Additional examples for on-street bicycle facilities. And so these are separated based on the urban or rural context. So you have a paved shoulder or a bike lane in the urban areas. And then we also have on-street bicycle facilities. So an example here we have is something called a bicycle boulevard. So this is a bicycle priority route designed to offer convenient, low-stress access to local destinations through neighborhoods. So as you can see there, in the example, it combines road markings, traffic calming measures, and crossing improvements for bicycle comfort and priority. The next example is pedestrian facilities. So some examples of sidewalks, also marked crosswalks with pedestrian refuge islands, curb bump out and extensions, as we have currently in the Millwork District here in Dubuque. We also have some examples of pedestrian crossing signals, so a hawk signal and a pedestrian countdown signal. Finally, just some other examples of traffic calming measures. So a road diet is one where we can reconfigure an existing roadway from a 4-lane down to a 3-lane roadway with center turn lanes and bike lanes. This example here is from Davenport, I believe, in the picture, but we also have examples of this here locally on Key West Drive here in Dubuque County. Also, another example of traffic calming improvement we have locally here is a roundabout. The example there is on University and Grandview Avenue here in Dubuque. So earlier I mentioned the interactive map, and I can pull that up here for us to take a look at. And there's also a link and a QR code. But if I switch this here, I think I should already have it loaded up. Refresh. And so this map is available at the link, also the QR code. You can scan it and look at it on your iPad or your phone. And the nice thing about this is you can look at different areas close up. We can zoom in on Dubuque. The future planned pedestrian and bicycle facilities are dashed lines. The existing are the solid lines. We have also identified in this map some priority routes. So I think in total we identified over 100 bike or future projects within the full area. We wanted to try to narrow that down a little bit, and so we identified some priority future routes. So these are a combination of existing and future projects. So we see we have the Northwest Arterial existing trail here that's planned, and the priority route extends that along the existing Chavanel Trail and down to the future planned Southwest Arterial Trail. So with that, I think that is all I have for the presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Well, Dan, thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate this this presentation. I think what we're going to need to do is email any questions that we have. We're down to about a minute and a half left. So I think rather than take questions from the table here, I'm sure we do have some. We tend to talk about bikes and pedestrians quite a bit as we have these discussions. So I would encourage all of us to make sure we reach out to Laura or Dan or the entire team that's been meeting about this. Glad to hear that you're meeting monthly. So thank you very much. This is a very helpful update.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And there being no further business in this work session, we will be adjourned.